Could Brian Burns be overvalued by the Carolina Panthers? Hey, remember Armanti Edwards? He's got a sour taste in his mouth still about how the Carolina Panthers released him. Joe Person wrote a blurb on every single player on the Carolina Panthers, and he likes the Miles Sanders, the running back, as a fantasy football player. And speaking of running backs, they are big time mad. We've got that and more in the news. Let's hit it. Let's start with the good story. Muhsin Muhammad recently inducted into the Panthers Hall of Honor. Go to Carolina Panthers Twitter. You can find this great 2-minute video, 2.5-minute video of Muhammad reflecting upon his time in Carolina and the meaning of his career. Great stories about that 2003 football team when it comes to that epic record-setting touchdown catch, 85 yards from Delhomme to Muhammad over on a double move over Ty Law. You got him shushing the crowd, letting everybody know that the Panthers are legit when they went to Philadelphia. And a great story about superstition and his kids painting his cleats in the 2004 season when he had his best career year the following year. Go to Panthers Twitter, check this video out. It's a must watch. Now, let's talk about this wild story. Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports did the most literal possible thing, and he said, hey, what teams overvalue a player? And what he meant by that is not what you would think. And that is, he literally is talking about the most literally talking about the most literal definition of too much value, overvaluing. And the fact is that they just depend on Brian Burns too much. That was the focus of this article. You can find that on Panthers Wire. Interesting news here. The Carolina Panthers have made an offer to Brian Burns, but he is being patient, waiting for the other defensive ends to sign their deal. A rising tide lifts all boats, and in this case, resets the market. Brian Burns getting big time paid, and it's not going to be overvalued. It's going to be the value that the market dictates. Do you remember Armanti Edwards, Appalachian State standout? You might remember him saying, doing a commercial on how to be careful swimming when he was in college. Well, Armanti Edwards caught up with Scott Fowler from the Charlotte Observer. You can find this at charlotteobserver.com. Also, there's an audio podcast of him interviewing great North Carolina sports legends. And he's still got a sour taste in his mouth about how in his, I believe it was his third year as a player, when he was starting to think that he was actually getting the hang of it, that his aunt died. He was struggling with an injury. They were installing plays specifically for him. He was named by Ron Rivera as like a camp standout. His aunt died, and when he came back, supposedly he reports or commented that Dave Gettleman, when he was told him why they were being released, he just said he was never the same after his aunt died. Now, this sounds a little, I won't say sour grapeish. Look, Dave Gettleman was not known for the best way to interact with players and break this type of news. But I tell you one thing is that it really seems to lack a little of the context if you just look at this one blurb right here about how injury was a problem there. And some different reasons there. But, hey, Dave Gettleman, not known for his bedside manner. Akim Ekwonu and Cade Mays go to an offensive line summit. And, look, hey, Cade Mays is the front runner right now to take over at right guard. It looks like Austin Corbett still rehabbing that injury. There's going to be some needed help there. Akim Ekwonu and Cade Mays going and hanging out with the legends and learning about their craft. This year's event brought more than 275 offensive linemen together and featured words from Hall of Famers like Bruce Matthews, Steve Hutchinson, Will Shields, and along with Andrew Whitworth, Robbie Tobick, Richie Incognito. I hope he didn't bully these young kids there. It's all about sharing notes, sharing knowledge about each other, sharing stuff about the game mindset, Ekwonu said, telling stories and just enjoying the presence of being with guys that you think you like. You can find more about this on Panthers.com. Joe Person with The Athletic has broken down every single player on the offense and the defense now, right? He talks about our new quarterback, but every single player from a long list of guys that you might not even be familiar with. But one guy he likes as a fantasy football breakout player this year, or potentially a sleeper, is Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders last year, he wrote, averaged 4.9 carries and ran a career-high 11 touchdowns in Philadelphia. Only two backs finished with more rushing touchdowns while averaging at least 4.9 yards, Josh Jacobs and Nick Chubb. Sanders says he wants to catch more passes than he did over his final 2 seasons with the Eagles when he became primarily a 2-down back. And speaking of running backs, they are big-time mad. Josh Jacobs did not get re-signed. Also, Saquon Barkley, looks like these guys are going to have to deal with the franchise tag. And this discussion got set off by this tweet today. And I don't know if Dez Bryant was the originator of this, but this is the first one I found and had a bazillion retweets and comments on that. It said, can someone explain this to me? Average salary for a running back, NFL running back, $1.8 million. Average salary for an NFL kicker in 2023, $2.26 million. Now, I tell you, this is where the law of averages and numbers can be misleading. There's like 130 running backs in the league and 40 kickers in the league. What we got to do is probably talk about the top players in each category. But, hey, is that the running back position has continued to be devalued here throughout this league as it's moved to a passing-focused league. And really, look at kind of some of the things that have gone down in the past is Le'Veon Bell getting a big contract, Todd Gurley getting a big contract. Hey, Derrick Henry might be the only guy that has, like, really lived up to his contract. In fact, Christian McCaffrey, we know he got big-time money, and it's just hard to build a team around a running back in that case and allocating that much money when you think about the position. Sadly, these guys are playmakers when you get a great one and a good one. But unfortunately, it is a position that is more easily kind of replaced. Maybe not replaced being the right word, is you're able to kind of fill that void. And teams are making more and more business decisions at this position. But I tell you what, is right now this was exacerbated by news of Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley not getting their big money deal. So look, the Carolina Panthers paid Miles Sanders here. And, some people are asking, was that premature? I don't think so here. But look, as this tells you, is it's very difficult for these running backs to land the big money on these teams. Right now, Josh Jacobs, these guys are workhorses around the league. But at the same time, if you look at these teams, Josh Jacobs with the Raiders, Saquon Barkley with the Giants, these teams haven't had much great success when they've had a great running back. Think of the Tennessee Titans and Derrick Henry. Now, they might be the outlier. Their problem is just getting over the hump. Carolina Panthers and Christian McCaffrey, right? How much should you allocate to the running back position? Who knows at this point? It's like, hey, you play great players, great money. But at this point, at this time, you don't want to be weighed down by this position. And sad to say, the running backs are just not getting the money. Look, Carolina is heading to Spartanburg next week for training camp. It's going to be hot as hell, folks, so bring your water. We're going to be there. Make sure to check out the C3 Panthers podcast, Tuesday nights live, 9 p.m. for latest news and opinions from the fan perspective. My name's Tony Dunn. This is the news. We'll see you next time.